Hey guys, it's John at National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into the NBA games. I know it's been a few days that I posted on here as far as NBA. I think our last video, I did my playoff video. That took me a little bit just because it's so tedious, and then the last 3 weeks of the season slash playoff video, and then the other one, our last pick, I think we went into the Seahawks, so that was a nice one. It just seemed really obvious, to be honest. And that was even without the fact that they had a backup quarterback in. For today's games, when I notice a pattern, I definitely like to explore it and then see if that pattern holds credence. And it's interesting because today, obviously 1-2-2, just an interesting day. An interesting day. It's always an interesting number. I've gone into the 2-2-1, 2-1-2, 1-2-1, 1-2-2, different inverses, and there's a lot of them. The only one I see more is 1-2-6, and I'm going to go into that in a minute. I like a lot of these games, and then some narratives happen to support them. Actually, it's not a lot of these games that I like. It's a lot of games that are connected, in my opinion. So, I notice a lot of teams can move to 16-12 or 20-6. I saw that pretty quickly, and just have sixes in general, as you know, have 20s in general. The 2-6 combo, however you want to look at it, and there's a narrative going on. And again, for that, I always think of Kobe. So, you look at the Lakers Bulls. The Lakers with the win would go to 16-12, which is interesting. And if you look at the Celtics, they're at 20-6 now, so a win would put them at 2-1-6, just an inverse of 1-2-6. So I find that all very interesting. And like I said, it wasn't like I just randomly looked for this. It was the fact that they talked about how the Lakers have been losing since they won the in-season tournament. And same thing with the Pacers. I just found it to be interesting, an interesting narrative. So obviously, 13-13 would be interesting too. Just a half of 26. But going into the games, like I said, it's not like I like a bunch of them. I just think there is some kind of weird Kobe connection. Obviously, with Boston, there's always the Kobe connection. With the Lakers, there's always the Kobe connection. Again, both can move to 1-6-2, 1-2-6 variations of. I do believe a day or two ago, they put out a post honoring Kobe, showing him receiving his. It was after the in-season tournament. It was very recently, showing him receiving his. It was some kind of medal, or it might have been a championship, or his jersey retired. I think it was that 8-24. They went into that just a couple days ago, so I found that interesting. So all that being said, there's a few games that stuck out to me that I like. First, not really related to the whole Kobe saga, but I do like the Hornets to win, and it's kind of related because they'll be 8-18. Obviously, the 8-1-1, the 1-8, big number with Kobe. So we have 8-1-8, a perfect palindrome. On top of that, they're pushing again. It could be to get people off of these teams, but I don't think so. They like to more put it in our face. They're showing how since the in-season tournament, these teams have fallen off. They've even gone as far as saying, well, it's not as competitive. To which I keep saying to the people who say this is real, then what the hell is the in-season tournament? If they're saying the in-season tournament is these guys going out and trying their hardest and competing, what the hell are they doing the other 70-plus games? It doesn't make any sense. I think people are finally onto it, because now you have NBA players just doing WWE-like things. We predicted the Draymond Green. I put out a little short about it. It only let me do 15 seconds off of it. But I had gone into, in a couple videos, how I was waiting for Draymond Green to punch somebody, because they're just booking these rivalries so much like WWE, and it's not even a matter of if anymore, in my opinion. It's more a matter of just the how. It's like, okay, they're definitely doing it. Like, there's no way we would predict these things. Specific players getting punched, specific players getting choked. Well, we didn't predict the players that would get choked and punched. We predicted the perpetrator. And it's crazy how the fans will react, because you'll go on a comment and the fans will be like, oh, this guy's been a terror, this guy's been awful. And I don't want to go on a tangent, but before I go into the games, I really want to go into, again, as the title suggests, we're going to go into Ja, and we're going to go into some just narratives and what they do. They did with Russell Westbrook. They had the entire fandom, love him or hate him, respecting how great this man was and how important he was and how loyal he was. And just with the flip of a switch, a couple memes, a couple tweets, a couple players coming out, and suddenly this guy's the Antichrist. And they did the same thing with Ja, obviously, which we're going to get into. But I wanted to go into the aspect of the in-season tournament. So again, they're saying this in-season tournament is competition and the rest of it's not. And that's when we really saw a lot of the fiery play by people. But Draymond Green, his first really vile act was the in-season tournament with the choke. And fans now are all subscribed to this belief that they had, oh yeah, we knew he was a dirty player. He's worse than Bill Laimbeer. This guy's a menace. People were not saying that when he punched Jordan Poole. They were saying Jordan Poole deserved it. And that's why I said I thought the Wizards were going to have a great year. I thought Jordan Poole was going to be redeemed because Draymond Green was definitely the heel in that situation. Poole was just there to have fun. Like, Poole was just like the guy at the party who was like, everything's great, the music's good. And then some guy's like, what did you say? Like, and just ruins the whole thing. Like, Poole was not in any way being treated like a heel. He wasn't doing heelish things. You had Damian Lillard come out against him, which will, for people that are easily impressionable, I guess that could pack a pretty big punch. But my point, a different type of punch. But my point is, you see how quick the media got people to now, in unison, by putting out these polls, by showing, and again, he's an actor. He's doing what they tell him to do. By showing people, oh man, all of a sudden now it's, oh, we knew Draymond Green was the worst. He should have been gone years ago. And people weren't saying that when he knocked Poole out. And now the same people are saying, oh yeah, Poole didn't deserve it, pretending they weren't saying the opposite. And it's not a rant on the fans, it's just in my opinion, a reflection of how easily you can condition people. It's just like wrestling. You watch wrestling, a guy does some messed up things, the announcers talk about it a certain way, and typically the average wrestling fan is going to have wrestlers they like for being cool, noble people, and wrestlers they dislike for being scumbags. So anyway, the Draymond Green thing is very interesting, but I think with all that, again, the competition aspect is very interesting. I wonder what these other games are, if that's the game where LeBron's like, we need to win here, but apparently in the playoffs they can get swept. So going into the again, I notice a lot of this tying together. There's symbolism and there's narrative. So again, I always say this, and since the guy's been stalking me again recently, and I don't know why, it always seems to be as our videos start trending upward and I get his trend downward. This Jake the Nutbag. We'll probably copy this because it's just everything we say he copies. But I always do say narratives reign supreme. So as far as the games, I always look at the narratives more so than the points or the numerology. I use my metrics, of course, which again that he also copied. But as far as the narratives, they do reign supreme. We saw it with Dre, and we see how you watch any of these shows, it's all about narratives. They need to spin everything into some kind of larger-than-life story, just copying wrestling. But I do believe in the numbers too, and that's why I love this Hornets game. I think the Hornets are going to win because we got the 818, which is the Kobe number. They've been talking about him a lot lately. At the same time, the Pacers can drop to 13-13, and it's not really the fact that they would drop to 13-13. It's the fact that it would continue the narrative that they are having this type of championship, even though they didn't win it. Champions hangover. They really exhausted all their mental and physical stamina during this championship run, this in-season championship run, and as a result, now they're paying for it. So I love the Hornets for the upset here. I think they could definitely do it. They're also a team that I think might go on a little bit of a run. I went into the MJ shaming. I think they're going to have a better record than... They're definitely going to be better than the pace that they're on. So obviously they're on a pace to go. It would be like 28 and 32 wouldn't be enough games. but something to the effect of like very low 30s, like 30 and 42, or 30 and 52. I'm sorry. I don't see that happening. And honestly, I don't even know what the new schedule is. I don't know if they shave games or if we're still having the typical 82. I honestly have no idea, but you guys can let me know. Either way, I think the Hornets are going to finish at a better pace than they started at. Public's not going to be on them now in Indy. I think they're expecting Indy to pounce. So I love the Hornets for the value. I wouldn't go nuts on it, but I definitely like it for the value. And then going back to the Kobe connection. Now, again, both these games are on NBA TV, which is why I fixated on it a little more. T-Wolves could drop to 20-6. And you see, again, we have the 188. So they're already on the 188. I feel like it's a very... I don't believe in gematria. I believe in a Rube Goldberg number system. And if you don't know what a Rube Goldberg device is, it's like the Saw traps where there's a bunch of micro dominoes that it's a causation effect. And it just seems like there'll be a team on a certain record, and then another team will move to that record. There always seems to be commonalities. But I like the 20-6. So I like the, I think this one's a very nice one where Philly could probably win, but I don't think they're going to cover. I love the T-Wolves to cover this game. To me, it screams of a win, no cover. So for my personal pick, I have Timberwolves plus 3.5 because, again, I think it's going to be one of those games that, since they're NBA TV games, they're going to pitch these as competitive. Don't forget, we got Pat Bev on one side. On the other side, we got the victim of a assault on the court, whatever you want to call it, the choking, which, again, I think he knew about. But my point is, I think the Wolves are definitely going to cover this game. But I do find the fact that they can move to 206, or I'm sorry, 20-6 interesting. And you have it with the Heat too, 16-12. Like I said, there's a lot of teams that can move to these records. The Heat Magic is an interesting one. Magic great against the spread. So I'd probably take the Heat to cover, to be quite honest. They probably could win this game as well. And then the other one there's actually two more that are kind of connected to the Sixers one, and just in general. And this Lakers one's connected to the Pacers one because, again, they're talking about the hangover, all these different things, and then the narrative would suggest, of course, that the Lakers would lose this game along with the Pacers. Now, if they win the game, they move to 16-12, and I personally think that makes more sense, just because I don't think they're going to run the narrative with two different teams and have them both continuously lose. It would make sense that the winners won, and then maybe the Pacers, they lost some morale after that loss, or they were exposed in the tournament. That narrative makes a lot more sense. Whereas LeBron's statement all year has been, we're doing good, but not good enough. We have to improve. We have to improve. Even after they won, we have to improve. So to me, them falling off doesn't make much sense. They're establishing AD now. A lot of it's looking at, okay, what are they going to do? And they're not going to waste AD. We already saw what he did in the in-season tournament. If he was going to be wasted or traded or considered a liability, I firmly believe he would have he wouldn't be doing what he's doing right now. So I think the Lakers winning this game makes a lot of sense. The cover is an interesting one. I think the cover is definitely more appealing than taking the money line because of the juice. But again, it could be a win, no cover. But I like the Lakers to cover this game, to be honest. Again, I said at the beginning of the year, I thought the Bulls were missing the play-in. I think the Hornets are going to get in ahead of them. They have a couple wins to rattle off for that to happen, but they definitely could do it. So I think Bulls are going to trade away one of their two guards, and then we're going to see them just tank and just have a horrible year. Again, maybe some more MJ shaming. You never know. So with all these games, I just find that there's a lot of commonalities, and there's one more. The Celtics Kings. Again, I might have brought this up already. I went over a lot of games. Celtics can move to 21-6 here, so 2-1-6. I find that very interesting. We can get 2-1-6, 2-0-6 with the Timberwolves, and again, there's that Philly, Boston, Laker connection, and all three can move to 1-2-6 combos. So I find that all to be very interesting, which, again, I know I went over a lot of things, and I want to cover Ja too, but I wanted to cover just how the media influences people, in my opinion. Hornets win straight up. It's my pick there. Timberwolves cover the 3.5. That's my pick there. Although I think that the 76ers are going to win a very close game. So maybe getting on a prop like Sixers by 1 to 4 points, whatever. You know how the book will have breakdowns. You can even do an exact, maybe pick them to win by 2 or 3. But I would just pick them on the money line, pick the Wolves on the cover, and those are the two I like there. So they kind of conflict, but I genuinely think it's going to be a win no cover for the Sixers. And then for the Lakers, I like them to win here. Again, move to the 1-6-1-2. Again, the date is 1-2-2. So we're seeing a lot of similar numbers. And then finally, I like the Celtics for the win to move to 21-6 because I think it just makes sense. So those are the plays I like. Clippers, Mavs. Clippers suck on the over. Mavs suck on the under. They're both pretty inconsistent, so I'm not playing that game. And a lot of the other ones, like I said, I post all my daily metric plays because I go into the exact basic mathematical highest probabilities to win based off of history. I've been posting them on the Patreon, and I appreciate everybody that's been following. We got the football video out for this week, just some early stuff. And again, it just means a lot because for me, we got shut off. We got cut off at the knees as far as we can't. If we apply for monetization, we will be shut down. Not like these other channels who cry that they're being shadow banned. Our thumbnails aren't even being shown, and if you type my name in, one of the first recommendations is Jake the Nutjob making videos about us because he's very salty that a lot of people see he's stale and we actually help people. But my point is, I can't really rely on the YouTube gods to help us here, so all the people that have shown love on Buy Me a Coffee, in the Discord, in the comments, Chris, I really appreciate the fact that you've been helping out as far as the summarizations and data. He's been sending me emails every day going into the data, a breakdown of our picks, and it just really helps. So like, I don't forget anybody. I just appreciate everyone that helps out in the Discord, all that stuff. And yeah, like I said, we're doing well, but the reason I made that was because a lot of people like to just tail picks, and it makes it a lot easier where there's so many games. We got like 12 college basketball games going on today that they're just, I get people aren't interested in watching Stonehill versus St. Mary's, but they seem to offer much better value than picking games like the Clippers Mavericks. But yeah, for the symbolism, for the narratives, like I said, narratives do reign supreme. That's why I like all these picks and all these covers. Now, John Morant, very interesting story. And that is what it is. It's a story. It's not a game. This is a complete script. You have the hero, and you again. I went into this earlier in the year how they were going to start off terrible, and not only that, but the reason they were starting off terrible was clearly so John Morant could come back and either completely bust and make no difference, or be a complete superstar. I had a feeling it was going to be the latter because it makes no sense to do the former. But sure enough, he comes back, he kills it. They have this nice little heart-to-heart with him and Bane, how he was going to be this humble guy, and now all of a sudden he's everybody's favorite dad again. He's just this sweet guy. And again, I think even all the charges, there was no actual charges, but all the rules that he allegedly broke, all these different things. Again, I think he was told to do these things. I don't think these players just do it on their own. They're completely owned, in my opinion, by Disney. Let's not forget, it's the same people who wrote Mickey Mouse. It's not ESPN. So yeah, Ja comes back, goes insane, and hits the game-winning shot, which wins. They win the game, of course. So I'll be looking at that going forward. Again, it just shows how quickly ESPN. I mean, look at the Giddy situation. That one, I'm afraid, is going to get my channel shut down, and they're the other people probably aren't talking about this one because based off my interactions with these other content creators, they probably are on Giddy's side. Now, there's two arguments to it. If you believe the guy was just lied about and, he's a victim of an entitled girl trying to get money or clout, then I understand that people that are on his side. But then you have the psychos that I was alluding to a second ago that are on his side because they have no problem with pedophilia. That Pat Prudner guy was the same way. I don't mean to just be bringing these people up, but again, the one's following me again. So he does it every time we start, starts getting towards playoff season. He did it last time. He's doing it again, almost to the same day. It was like around Christmas time last year. He started stalking the channel. He started it up earlier this year, and now same thing. Just continuously watching our channel, having commenting with different accounts about us, all these different things. So didn't have great experiences with both those guys, but there's probably a reason they're not covering this issue, considering one looks like a school shooter and the other looked like he has a minivan with candy in it. Now, the ESPN talking heads aren't talking about this either, and it's for a good reason. The reason being, they don't want people knowing about Josh Giddey. He probably did do it. I mean, there's not much to. What the girl hasn't pressed charges, so it's very interesting. Like she was annoyed when she was asked about it. Like she's like, I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, I fucking dated him. So she's not taking the typical angle of someone that's trying to get money out of this guy or trying to leverage this guy. She almost seemed like she was defending him. Now I'm not going to speak on the legalities of the issue or too much of it because everything we see is a lie. My major point is they had Stephen A. Smith come out and do damage control. Oh, you guys aren't talking about Giddey. Why aren't you talking about Giddey? Of course he made it about race somehow. This guy finds a way to make everything about race. But my point is, they'll talk about Ja. Sure. They'll talk about all sorts of other things that they don't mind too much, but they're not going to talk about something that hits too close to home, and we know Disney. We know that they're a bunch of creepy pedophiles, and that's what ESPN is. They're beholden to Disney. They're a subsidiary of Disney. So, again, I wanted to go into the sports narratives because it's interesting he gets no talk, and now Ja's back just killing it. So obviously there's going to be all this talk on Ja while they clean up whatever Giddey wound up doing. And again, they probably don't even care that he did it because, again, these elitists are pedophiles. So they just have a much different moral code. But the fact that Ja came back and just went nuts in his return, I'm not saying he couldn't have done it, but again, the fact that they were getting pounded, and again, the Pelicans kept him in it just enough for him to come back and hit this game winner, to me is just very Seahawk-esque. If you watch the Seahawks game, we had them winning for, the reason it was a trap line. But if you watch the last play, a lot of people commented to me, that dude had magnetic gloves on. That was a ridiculous catch. And I wasn't really watching it. This, based off the camera angle, by the way, you can tell by the way they shift the camera whether the guy scored or not. It's very, very cryptic. So they'll flash the camera to it'll be like a side pan and then a slight aerial raise. That means he caught the ball. If they barely move the camera or they move it slower and then they do a slow zoom in, like a Michael Myers zoom in, typically he did not make the catch and they're showing the incompletion. Even if, again, it could be the same play, he made the catch but he didn't get his feet in, the camera is different, the angle, than when they know. It's almost like the cameramen know, okay, you got to get this frame because he's going to score it here, which makes perfect sense. So if you watch wrestling and the cameramen don't know where to pan, you're going to have a very interesting wrestling match, to put it lightly. So people have to think, it's not just the referees, it's the freaking cameramen are in on this. It's everybody. They're running a show out there. It's a Marvel movie. So didn't want to go on all these side tangents, but I wanted to cover the narratives and how they're able to. I brought that up because I saw the catch, but I didn't have my bifocals on, my glasses on, with the magnifying glass up to the TV. I was just kind of listening, looked up, saw the way the camera moved and the way the reaction was delivered by the announcers, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you made the catch. Then I gotta watch that back. But as far as the narratives, the Ja one's gonna be interesting. I think he's gonna be a hero. I think they're going to, again, especially with Giddey, they don't want all this negative publicity around the league. So I think he's going to come back. Apparently he's going to have the quickest, most successful rehab of all time. And he's going to look like a complete superstar. He'll be out there just probably getting more assists, looking more humble, but also just winning games like he did here. So this could have been kind of like a Dion thing where Colorado looked really good and then people started piling money on them and they lost. But I do think because they're a draw, because Ja's a draw, he is a face of the league, I think the Grizzlies are going to go on a nice run here. So getting them in the playoffs now I wanted to see what they did to him his first game, if he was going to come back and they were going to kind of humble him a little bit. I think picking them to make the play-in would be really, or playoff play-in, they should have some kind of, or just taking their live over-under. Probably a very good bet. But if you do the playoff play-in, you're going to get plus odds, so I like that. But yeah, for the most part, I just wanted to cover today's games, all the similarities I noticed. Like I said, with the 1/8 is very interesting, which lines up with the Pacers losing, which they're talking about in narratives of ever since they lost in the championship, they haven't won. Timberwolves again looks like a trap. That's why I like the cover, but I do like the prospect of the 206. And then what I like more is the Celtics here again. I think them winning makes a lot of sense. 216. It's another one you can call a trap, I guess, but the fact that we can get the Celtics and Lakers with 1-2-6s when they're talking about Kobe a lot, I find very interesting. So I'm going to roll with them. So we'll see how we do on those games. I'll have the Thursday game out probably later tonight, if not tomorrow. I just did my whole slew on Patreon, so there I don't, I'm going to cover the games obviously on here as well, but I did a lot of times the lines change as well, so we'll be going into different things that the Rams, for example, hasn't changed at all, but some of the other ones have flipped, and I thought they would move a few points, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll be going into this game, and again, I went into it in my playoff video. If you didn't see that, you can watch it, but I think as far as the Rams, they make much more sense to make the playoffs than Saints, so it all comes down to the cover, which obviously can always be tricky. But I'll go into that, and I think tonight we'll have a good night. Like I said, I think a lot of these games are connected. I don't pretend to know how. A lot of the gematria guys will be like, oh yeah, this team's played this team 49 times on a Wednesday after eating a burrito, and they have a record of 292-1. That means that these teams are going to definitely both lose. And then it winds up not being true. I don't pretend to know how the teams are connected, but if I see patterns like Kobe Bryant, and I think of Philly, Boston, and Los Angeles, and then probably Italy or Spain, but as far as the cities, I think that's who most people think of as well. I don't think there's another team that really comes to mind outside of those three, just because he's from Philly, he born in Philly. Crash was in LA, of course. He played in LA most of his career. And then Boston, a lot of his biggest moments, biggest rivalries with Boston, not to mention the Lakers and Boston, are tied at the hip. So whenever I see them all kind of connected, a couple of them are NBA TV, I find that very interesting. So yeah, I wanted to cover a few things. The sports narratives, just pay attention to what they're talking about, because it could really help as far as where they're trying to go with stories, in my opinion, and what seeds they're planning. So take care and happy earnings.